It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to 2025 and the Brouhaha. That goes together pretty good, 2025 and the Brouhaha, doesn't it, Dale?
It does, you know.
It's a big Brouhaha year coming up.
You think so?
Maybe the biggest ever.
Think so?
But I'm hoping so.
What do you think will be the key stories? Will the Chiefs repeat for a third time?
Let's go with that. That'd be good. That'd be outstanding.
Well, nobody's ever done that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I hope they do.
Well, who would be their biggest challenger, do you think?
Well, let's have a look and see here. Let's just have a look as we talk about the Chiefs. They've been in the AFC.
Yeah.
You look at, they're at 15-2. They're the Bills at 13-4. You know, so I would say in the AFC, naturally I would think the second best team, 13-4 and 15-2. I'll just go with those two.
Really?
Yeah. And then of course you get over the sides of the Lions. Probably they're 15-2 on the NFC side. So if the Chiefs were to get by, get out of the AFC, then they'd be looking at you and say, well, there's the best team in the NFC, the Detroit Lions with a 15-2. Of course, Philadelphia's in there at 14-3. So I'd just go by who's won the most games.
Really?
At this point. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think the physicality and the aggressiveness of the Detroit Lions might be my favorite. I think that
maybe it's how they won all them games.
Yeah, they just
15 of them.
I hate to say it on the air, but they just knock the crap out of people.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
And they run downhill.
Yes, sir. To me, that's a recipe for success.
Sure.
Knock the crap out of people and run downhill. Mm-hmm. That'll get you a win most of the time.
Yeah. Well, they have done a very good job of that, and I just want to. Like usually, we just want a good Super Bowl, good play in Super Bowl because it's built up so much, and it's just like this college game, the playoffs and all that, and we still got some good games this weekend for sure. Or Thursday night and Friday night when we got the two college playoff games, and then Saturday we'll start having some playoff games. And
who's left in the college?
Well, we got let's see, Ohio State is going to play in the Cotton Bowl against Texas, which Ohio State better be ready because I'm sure that they'll get a great welcome down in Texas.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Notre Dame surprised us all by beating Georgia a little bit, and they're going to meet Penn State, which has been playing very good football.
Who's going to win those two games? Who's going to go for the finals? Who are you picking?
Well, I really think just based on the performances of the last couple of weeks, I would be leaning toward Ohio State and Notre Dame. I think Ohio State has played maybe better teams than Texas did. Texas played Clemson and Arizona State. And Ohio State had to play Tennessee, which I think is better than Clemson or Arizona State. And they also had to play Oregon, and they really took it to Oregon.
Yes, sir.
And and Notre Dame just looked so good against Georgia.
Yeah.
The Notre Dame quarterback, I'd kind of heard something about it last year. The only thing I remembered about him is they won a game late at night one night, like at 12 o'clock, and his name is Riley Leonard, and he was playing for Duke at that time.
Yeah.
And he got on the air and he said, "Hey, Professor so-and-so, I might be a day late on my paper. That's the only thing I remember about him. But that he was a good quarterback. But he's from Fairhope, Alabama. And he's leading the Irish, and he really took it in his own hands the other day. They couldn't pass the ball really well against Georgia, but I tell you what, he made some key runs in that ball game to keep that game. And of course, that was so sad what happened in New Orleans last week with the death of all those people. That was meaningless.
Yeah.
You know that.
There's a lot of meaningless crime and just hurt and just stuff that just goes on. And there's no reason for it. It's tough. I do want to go back and say I'm with you. I forgot what I was with you on. I was with you on something, Dale. I forgot what it was. Ain't that something? Just like finally come to something I could agree with you on, and I forgot what it was.
Probably my bowl picks.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, my 2 games this week or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I agree with you 100%. I think that the ultimate winner of everything. I think that Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to play for it. And I think Ohio State's going to win it easy. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But I've been wrong before.
Oh yeah, we all have. But of course, home field advantage, and definitely Texas will have it in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be cold this weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
In Texas?
Yeah, but but Jerry's got his little.
Oh, okay. I thought the Cotton Bowl was played in the Cotton Bowl Stadium.
Well, it used to be, but now
They don't do that anymore?
No, they put it in Jerry Worlds.
Oh.
I think the only there's games played in the Cotton Bowl. The only one I really know.
Well, Texas and Oklahoma played it.
Yeah, every year they play in the old, because that's part of the Texas
State
Fair. You know,
Used to go every year.
And I don't know if people really realize, but Oklahoma, really Norman may be closer to Dallas than Austin is. You know, about the same distance.
Right.
I think it's about the same distance between both schools there.
I bet you Austin's closer than Columbus. Isn't that where Ohio State is? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Columbus, Ohio, not Columbus, Texas.
Yeah, I saw last night on television the Minnesota Vikings bought $2 million worth of tickets for their ball game Sunday night against Detroit.
Yeah.
They were playing for the conference championship or division championship. They bought $2 million worth of things and then sold it back to their fans. Yeah. And they bought them online, just like you and I would have to go online and buy.
$2 million tickets.
Yeah, because they $2 million worth of tickets.
$2 million
worth of tickets.
So where are they going to put all them people?
No, they were trying to get the people to go to Detroit and support the Vikings.
How'd that work?
I don't know. It didn't work out real well on the school board.
No.
You know, I think the Lions manhandled them really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I mean, you know, Lions, we talk about 15-2, and I mean, we was talking about, who were we talking about there? The Vikings. Mm-hmm. They 14-3 too. That's some good football they playing up there.
Yeah, and the Vikings are
black and blue division.
Yeah, and the Vikings are a wild card.
Yeah.
They're like the number 5 seed or something like that.
Let's see here. Yeah, they're number 5. Wild card number 1, baby. True definition of a wild card.
Doesn't matter. You don't get any home games.
Yeah.
You know, got to be a conference champ to get the home game.
Got to be a conference champ. Well, taking the champs, what you got for us with our guest this week, here, champ?
Well, we're going to talk to Robbie Faulk of the Starkville News and 24/7 Mississippi State Sports.
All righty.
And he's going to fill us in about all the doings in Starkville, as far as mainly start with a little basketball. You know, we had a couple of weeks ago, we had Ole Miss announcer Marcus Dukes talking to us about Ole Miss basketball. State's having another great year in men, and the women's got to have a really good team. Of course, it really doesn't show because this week they were beaten by number 16 Kentucky and number 2 South Carolina.
Quick question for you before we get running
Sure.
along. If you look at the sports, and you got the big 3, you got what? Football, basketball, and baseball, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at the big 3 in Mississippi, which would be Ole Miss State and LSU, typically football has kind of belonged to the Rebels, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I'm up from
Baseball, even though Ole Miss has won the World Series, typically belongs to the Mississippi State. Basketball, Mississippi State probably runs that too because they've been to the Final Four before. Ole Miss never has, have they? Mm-hmm. And then Southern has won an NIT. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's kind of how they rank up. I guess Mississippi State, and you know,
I would say that
probably has out of all the major sports is really more of an impact nationally than Ole Miss has.
Well, I think it all goes back to the coaching. I think that Richard Williams had great success up there at Mississippi State. I think M.K. Turk had a world of great success down at Hattiesburg. I mean, he built that program when it was in a very difficult conference. Mm-hmm. It was in the conference, I think it was called the Metro Conference to start with, and then
they had didn't they have Memphis in there and Louisville at one time?
Yeah, Memphis, Louisville, Cincinnati.
Ooh.
They had Virginia Tech in there, and
That was some basketball, buddy.
yeah, South Carolina was in the Metro for a little bit before they joined the SEC. So they've had everybody's had their kind of days, and I think Ole Miss had some early success in the early 2000s when Rob Barnes and Rob Evans were up there.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we got good stuff with Robbie Faulk coming on board. Let's take a moment to hear from our sponsor, and then we'll be back with tonight's guest, Robbie Faulk, right after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Robbie Faulk. Robbie, we appreciate you being on the show today. We know you've got a lot of expertise on Mississippi State sports, and we're going to try to get as much information out of you today as we can, especially on the basketball front. Robbie, I know that they had a pretty big basketball weekend in Starkville this weekend. The men won on Saturday, and of course the women had a South Carolina come to town. Tell us about those ball games.
Yeah, it was two opposite results for Mississippi State. Blew out the men's team, and they got blown out in the women's game. I don't think it was a huge surprise, the women's result, but the men's might have been a pretty big surprise to win the way that they did. 85-50 was your final score. It was the largest margin of victory, I think, in an SEC game for Mississippi State in 20 years. Just a really impressive showing for the team, and just they continue to build into a team that I feel like can really contend in the league in what is probably the deepest and strongest this conference has ever been. And so that's what's really impressive about this team so far is they look the part of a contender very early. Now, they're going to be tested quickly here. They got to go on the road and play, I think, a very good Vanderbilt team that's probably being overlooked by a lot of teams. And then you got Kentucky coming in, who just got a huge top 10 win. That's going to be a top 10 Kentucky team coming to town. So it's a huge week for Mississippi State, as big of a week as I can remember for Mississippi State basketball. Just the stakes this early on in the season are huge. But State is sitting in a very good spot right now in the first week of conference play. And now it's just about stacking wins and continuing to build what's already an impressive resume.
Wow.
Well, listen, as far as the SEC schedule, you used to play 2 games against your Western Division foes and maybe 1 game against a few of the Eastern Division foes and all this. But now they've got it to where who are some of the teams that Mississippi State might play on a 1-and-1 basis? I mean, you've got Alabama not a little over an hour from you. And how many times do they play Alabama now? 1 time?
I think they play them twice, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Play Ole Miss twice. I know
they do play. They play Alabama twice. They'll play Ole Miss twice. They'll play, I think, South Carolina twice as well. But yeah, it's kind of. I think they usually play Alabama twice and Ole Miss twice for sure, and the rest is just kind of. Hit or miss each year, but you play all your conference foes at least once, and it makes for a really exciting schedule. You got to go on the road this year and play Auburn and Tennessee, and those are 2 teams right now that look like 1 and 2 in the league. So you got to play Auburn, Tennessee, and Alabama on the road. That's going to be very difficult. Those are probably your top 3 teams, I would say, in the SEC right now, at least projections-wise. So you got to the coaches will always tell you need to protect your home court, and you need to steal a game or 2 on the road in SEC play. And that's what really puts you in good position. But when you got those home games, you have to protect that home court. And I feel like the Hump is going to be a very difficult place to play this year for a lot of teams. It really feels like it's back to where it was probably 20 years ago. And it's taken a long time to get there, but the Hump used to be one of the most underrated environments in the country, and I feel like it's starting to get there again. Just a very difficult place to play when it's full and it's loud because of the acoustics in the arena, how it was built, and it really feels like it's starting to become that tough place to play again. So it's good to get some of the home games you're getting. You get Kentucky at home, you get Alabama at home. Last year they beat Auburn and Tennessee in the Hump. So you're going to have to win your games when you get them at home.
Well, listen, you talk about the environment. It just seems like to me, from being in sports most of my life, I don't care what level that you play basketball on. It's just a little bit different. Home court is, it just seems like it gives the other team an advantage. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the goals are higher, lower, or some places compared to other places. I know they're not supposed to be, but you always wonder sometimes why a team can do so well at home. And of course, Nick Saban said something during football season. He said the easiest place to play in the SEC was Vanderbilt. And I think he got in trouble for that the next weekend, because I think Vanderbilt upset his lovable Alabama Crimson Tide. But where in the SEC is there a venue that you can go in and have a chance to win, is where the crowd doesn't take over?
It's tough everywhere. I don't know where the easiest place to play is right now. You look at the teams, like the teams that are at the bottom of the league, I would say, South Carolina and, LSU. I mean, it's still tough to win at the PMAC in Baton Rouge. Colonial Life is not an easy place to play. Missouri is a very strange place. It's not always loud, it's not always raucous or anything like that, but the gym itself, I don't know, something about it. It's a tough place to play as well. Those are some of the teams that are like at the bottom of the league, and it's really not easy to win anywhere. Georgia at Stegman Coliseum, a little smaller venue, but it can get loud in there too. It's very difficult in this league to go to a road environment and win games. Vanderbilt has not been very good of late, and as you know, Memorial Coliseum, that is a very, very tough place to play because of how it's built. You're basically playing on a platform. You have people at your feet. Can get really loud. Some crazy things have happened in that building over the years. And that's where State's going to be on Tuesday night. And this is a Vanderbilt team that, like I said, I think people are overlooking because they just haven't really talked much about their new coaching hire, and they haven't really been what they have been in the past. But this is a team that's very scary. They play sound, fundamental basketball. That's going to be a very tough test for Mississippi State, I think, on Tuesday.
Well, does it still, Vanderbilt, it used to, and I don't know, I can't remember from watching here lately, but they used to have the unusual seating chart for the visiting team and for the home team. One would be under one goal and one would be under the other goal. Do they still have that?
They do. They have the benches on the baseline, which you don't see hardly anywhere. You got, like benches on the baseline. The players have to, go run to the side and then run down the other side to get to the scorer's table. And then you have, like I said, you have people's heads are at their feet because it's on a platform.
Yeah.
So it is a unique environment, to say the least. I think it's pretty outdated. I've been there. I'll be there on Tuesday too. There's a lot of things that they probably need to do to spruce up the place, but as far as environments are concerned, and when it's packed and when people are invested, it's a very tough place to play. There's no doubt about it.
What makes Mississippi State men's basketball team so strong this year? Out of the gate,
think,
what are they doing really well?
Well, they have really good guard play. Chris Jans, if you look at the first two seasons where he was kind of building something here at Mississippi State, he showed up and he said, you don't really build your programs anymore. The way the transfer portal's set up, you have to build a team every year. There is no more, you bring a kid in, you redshirt them, you develop them, and they're here for 4 or 5 years. You just don't see that much anymore, and you can't bank on that. You would love to do that, and I think that's his goal at the end of the day, but his mindset is, I've got to prepare to build a team every year. And each team he's had has looked different, but they've gotten better. Year one, it was really about mucking up a game, dirtying it up, and playing really good defense and hoping to keep it in the 50s. And, at the end of the game, you hope to have more points than the other team. Year two, you added a guy like Josh Hubbard, who was a dynamic player who, if he got hot, with the fact that they played really good defense, that could help Mississippi State win ball games. In the offseason, they went out and got offense. They added Riley Kugel from Florida, Claudio Harris from Boston College, Kanye Clary from Penn State, R.J. Melendez came in from Georgia, who's been a really good Chris Jans-type player, plays solid defense, rebounds, and he can shoot and score. This team can score at all 5 positions, and they obviously are still playing pretty good defense. Not as good as the last 2 years, but they've made up for it by what they do in offense. And when they get out and run and they put their foot down on you, it's very tough to get up. And that's what we've seen, especially in some of these games that, you look at the Pittsburgh game and the Memphis game, 2 top 25 ball games. State came out and put the pedal to the metal and blew both of those teams out. Did the same thing against South Carolina as they turned the page into SEC play. They do a little bit of everything, and what they really do well is turning their defense into offense, getting out in transition. I thought they did that really well against South Carolina.
You hit on something. This is Marshall about the recruiting. I just want to revisit this again. We've been talking a lot about football these past few months. We're in basketball now, and basically what I heard you say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we're seeing this on the football side. High school kids are really getting hurt in the recruitment process. I mean, is that basically what we're seeing at basketball level too? I mean, you got your transfer portal, you got folks that is that impacting the high school seniors and the high school kids' ability to get to the next level? Do you think?
Yeah, it does. I don't think it's helped at all. State's still going to take 3 or 4 guys out of the high school ranks every year, and they signed a really good signing class out of high school this year. Chris Jan's best signing class. But when you got this transfer portal to lean on, where you can go get players that are proven, it's just made it really difficult for a lot of high school kids that normally were coming to this level right away. They're either going down a level to a smaller conference, maybe from Power 4 to Group of 5, or they're going from Division 1 to JUCO and having to work their way up that way. It certainly has not helped that group, and JUCO has been hurt more than anything, I feel like, during this transfer portal era with football and basketball.
Let me ask you
I don't think.
Would you mentioned that. Now, the football's gone from JUCO play from 2 to 4 years, correct? Are we doing that in basketball too?
I think that's as far as I can tell, I think that is a sport-wide or NCAA-wide deal.
Well, you could get kids.
And it's not something that I don't know what's going to happen long term.
Yeah.
But for this year, it appears that everybody, if you have a JUCO year, if you graduated high school 2020 and after, you have a year left. You have an extra year. But if you graduate in 2019, you can't get that year back. They're cutting it there. But yes, it as far as I can tell, that applies to everybody.
Okay. It's getting hard to keep up with it. All these rules.
To keep up.
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be. It's like the U.S. It's like the U.S. Constitution. I think it's going to be one of those things that it's a living document. It's going to change according to what's going on in the world, and
No doubt.
the world of sports. Well, listen. Tell us just tell us a little bit about the. Oh, well, I was going to ask you one other question. I don't believe in my lifetime, or I say my sports lifetime, I've ever seen Ole Miss and Mississippi State ranked in the top 25. Am I scratching my head, or can I go back in history and find this anywhere? Is this unique to Mississippi?
I'm sure you could find it, but it hadn't happened much. From what I can tell, there might have been a time with Kermit Davis and Ben Howland, maybe for a year, and beyond that, you're going to have to go back to obviously, maybe a year or two with Andy Kennedy and Rick Stansberry, or you might have to even go back to Rod Barnes. I mean, it doesn't happen much where they've both been good, but as you know, in this state, when one of them's good, it elevates the other. Yeah. And that's kind of with football right now. Mississippi State's scrambling to try to get on that level where Ole Miss is right now. And it fluctuates. It goes up and down. We've seen it throughout history. But both teams hired coaches that have been proven, that have won at other spots with programs that, maybe wouldn't normally win like that. Chris Jans and Chris Beard both came up, kind of humble beginnings. I think Chris Beard was at Arkansas Little Rock, and Chris Jans, he started in junior college and worked his way up the system. Both those guys have proven it, and both teams hired really good coaches. That's really what's happened across the board in the SEC. That's why this whole conference has been elevated. There was a time where it was just really bland. The conference, would have a team in the top four. I remember Mississippi State being in the top four in the conference a few years ago, and they're on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. Now we're talking about maybe 12 or 13 teams making it into the tournament by the end of the year. So it's just been a commitment from everybody across the board to be better.
Well, listen, I told you as we got started, I was going to show up sooner or later and say we're out of time, but unfortunately, Robbie, we are. We appreciate you being with us like you have before, and what you bring to the Brouhaha table, brother, you're greatly appreciated. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me. Hold
on just a minute. Dale and I are going to take a break to hear from one of our sponsors, and we'll be back with tonight's final segment of the Brouhaha after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody. That's nice talking to old Robbie, wasn't it, Dale?
Yeah, old Robbie's a good guy. I met him. I did make one mistake. I said he was on 24/7. Sports, but it's
on 3.
It's on 3 now.
Yeah.
So some of these younger.
What we going on, Dale?
I don't know.
We're going on 3.
But younger people, yeah. But younger people may know what on 3 is.
We old folks, man, that's new stuff, ain't it?
Yeah. They changed names, I guess, to for IRS reasons or something. I don't know. But go ahead.
You said something when we were off the air. You was talking about we've just had back-to-back Ole Miss and Mississippi State basketball guys. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be a common thread from both of those interviews. Would you care to share what that is?
Yeah, Mark Dukes, who was on here a couple weeks ago for Ole Miss, I think he was on our December 23rd show. He told us about how difficult it was going to be this year in the SEC. It's tough playing in a visiting venue these days. Doesn't care where you are. And if you heard Robbie, he told about how difficult it is to play at Vanderbilt and Missouri. It may not be so much the crowd, it's just different from any other venue,
Yeah.
I've been to Humphrey Coliseum, and I've been to Ole Miss's basketball court, and all I can tell you is that Ole Miss's court is like, it's like you're playing basketball in a little square. I mean, a very small square, and you got people right up there on you. And Mississippi State gets so loud, but Ole Miss got so loud. I watched some of the games Saturday that they were playing. I watched a little bit of both games for a little bit, and the crowd noise is just, you know, I mean, it's really defying. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't hardly hear in the place. You know, sometime. You know, and you know, as far as the crowd takes over, so I think it's going to be a really, really. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that there's always going to be really good teams. It's going to be there's usually 2 or 3 really good teams, and this year it's going to be at least Tennessee and Auburn for sure. And then you're going to have some teams that may not do as well. And I would assume that right now, just looking at it, be maybe South Carolina, Missouri, or Vanderbilt. You know, they're going to have it maybe a tough. I believe Ole Miss and State will end up in the middle. Because it's just tough. I mean, it's just like he said, LSU may not be really good this year, but you know, what did they do to Ole Miss in football? It's just, Baton Rouge is just, it don't matter what sport it is. It is a tough place to win.
It is. No matter
I don't
what.
care if it's baseball, basketball, or football. You better be a lot better than they are.
Yeah. We're going to get us a hockey team and go down there and show them what it's all about. But we're about out of time, Dale. No, let me rephrase that. We are out of time. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We want to thank our guest tonight, Robbie Faulk, and our sponsors. I want to remind you that you can follow us on Facebook at the Brouhaha, and all of our shows except the last one and this one are currently cataloged on our YouTube channel at the Brouhaha. The other one, they'll be up and running soon. But anyway, we come to the time. It's time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Del McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.